Today we're going to be talking about agility, CrossFit, and my fabulous taste in music. Welcome to episode 4 of Run It Straight. Was episode 4, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It is 4. So the first question today comes to us anonymously on Instagram. What is the best way to improve my sidestep? A couple of things around this to start with. When it comes to sidestep or agility, so we'll address this as how do I improve my agility. There's a couple of different components that come into that. Sort of we can look at splitting agility in half, and we can look at change of direction, or COD, for short, and decision making, and they're both two different components. So when it comes to what can you do to improve your sidestep, you can train change of direction. Now when we work with our guys, change of direction, we look at improving acceleration, deceleration, and there's a couple of other movement patterns that we train which are called the shuffle cut, crossover step, and the wedge step. And you can find, if you Google these, if you have a look on YouTube, you can find there's tons of clips about how to run these particular drills. But we use those drills to break down movement patterns into something which is nice and strict and linear, and you don't have to think too much about it, and we just practice the drill and we get it right. Once we've got that drill right, we then start to expand it out a little bit more until eventually, so we go from sort of a closed drill option where they just practice that one thing and you can think about that the whole time, to eventually it's an open drill where there's opponents and there's other players, there's attackers, defenders, there's a whole lot of other moving parts that you need to incorporate into what you're doing and how you're going to use that drill. So change of direction is one component. Probably another thing, strength training comes into that as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
So getting stronger is going to make any of those, and probably should have prefaced all of this because you are talking about a sidestep here, is if you get stronger, you'll be able to change direction better. So you'll be able to accelerate quicker, you'll be able to decelerate quicker, you'll be able to pivot, off your left leg, your right leg, whether it's at slow speed or it's at top speed. Getting stronger is going to help all of those things. So you've got to get your base work done in the gym. But aside from that, change of direction, one component. Another component of agility is actually your game awareness or your decision making. So decision making involves visual scanning, pattern recognition, anticipation, and knowledge of situations. So seeing things unfold. Sometimes you might have someone who doesn't have a great right foot step, but they still seem to manage to beat someone who's in front of them. And that's because they're watching their opposition. They're looking at, as that guy's knee shifted out, is his shoulder dropped, he's going this direction, he's going that direction. They're much more aware of what's going on outside of them. They might have a runner off their hip who they're holding the ball out in front, and they can see that this guy's hesitating. So while they might not have as good a natural change of direction, because they're reading the game, whatever change of direction capabilities that they do have, they're able to get the most out of that. And so when it comes to agility, we look at decision making, which is one component. We look at change of direction. We look at trying to train both of them. Now, we talked a little bit about how we train change of direction. When it comes to decision making, watching game film and looking at players who are able to beat opponents and looking at what their opponents are doing is going to give you an idea. But the best way to do this is just to get out and to run drills. It's to practice over and over, whether it's a 2-on-1 or a 3-on-2 or a 4-on-3. It's just to practice putting yourself in that situation where there's a whole lot of moving parts. You've got attackers that are with you, you've got defenders. You just got to practice. Anything else to add in there?
Oh, it's pretty broad, but what I can throw in there is don't focus too much on ladders. Ladders is more about, to improve agility, that's more about short steps, and agility is not about that. It's more about change of direction and everything that Joe touched on. So just please, maybe just stay away from ladders.
Yeah, ladders look really cool when you see people, again, on social, Instagram or Facebook or YouTube or whatever it is, you see some guy carving it up, but all that's going to really do is make you good at doing at ladders. It's not actually going to improve your sport that much. It's not going to improve your change of direction a whole lot. Learn the basic movement patterns, train them so that you're technically competent in those, then get strong, or at the same time, get strong, and then through improving your situational awareness, know when to use what skills you want to use at what point in time.
Again, just to add on that as well, So about improving strength in the gym. It's not about how heavy you're lifting. It's also about power training. There's a big difference between the two. I know we've touched on this before, but make sure that you're turning the strength that you're getting in the gym into power and something usable on the field.
Yep. Okay, our next question comes to us via Instagram from Popinator671. Hey guys, just wondering, what were your thoughts on CrossFit? Would you like to go first on this one? Or do you want me to go first?
I'm not a big fan, but you can go first.
I'll go first. Couple of things. Fantastic work ethic. They work, generally speaking, most CrossFit boxes, the clients that are going in there, and they work really, really hard. So that's fantastic. I think if there was a lot of other people who could take that work ethic to whatever gym they're training at, they get some really good results, and I think that's one of the reasons that they do get really good results. Secondly, they're pretty good on their nutrition. And I think being in an environment where you've got a whole lot of other people that are all pulling towards that one goal, and it is a very social sort of environment, it does encourage people nutritionally when you're being held accountable by someone, whether it's a trainer or a coach or it's just other people that you're training with. That can be really positive as well. Thirdly, they do use good movement patterns, which on the surface level are really good. Now, there can be significant variance between CrossFit boxes. Some are absolutely brilliant and they focus really well in on making sure your technique's right and everything else like that. Others, not so much, they just pack the numbers in there. But again, like any gym, that's going to depend on the culture that they have and on the trainers there that they have as well. It's not negative, but just a few other, I guess, criticisms of it. CrossFit training as a sport, I've got absolutely no problem with it. It's fantastic as a sport. As a way to train, it's probably not the best. The workout of the day type workouts, they're not designed for an individual with their own specific needs, whatever those particular needs are. They're not designed for a sport. It's not a strength and conditioning program. It's a way to exercise. As a sport, like I said, I've got no problem with it. There is a higher injury rate with it, but I mean, if you look at any sport, if you look at rugby league, we've mentioned before other weeks, training for 20 or 25 hours a week for the sport of rugby league. But if you played rugby league for 20 or 25 weeks, if you got a squad of 20 guys, 3 weeks time, no one's going to be left, everyone's going to be injured. So rugby league is definitely not it's not a healthy sport in the sense that everything that you do to get in shape for it may be, but the sport itself is actually pretty tough on the body, hence there's an injury rate. And I think CrossFit, if you look at it as a sport, it's absolutely fine, as long as you break down training for it into different components and you do them safely and you adapt them to each individual and what their specific needs are, then I think it comes across much better. But look, if you're training for rugby league, go and see an S&C coach who knows their stuff, and you're going to get something which is going to be much, much better for you. Lower risk of injury, much, much higher improvement, and they're going to design it based around what you need. What do you want to add?
Yeah, well, my main issue with CrossFit, it just depends on who we're talking about. If it's for an athlete, their bodies are most likely prepared for it, so they can handle the load. Mm-hmm. But if you're talking about an average person coming off the street, training CrossFit, and that's all they do, that's when I seem to find there's a lot more injuries involved.
Yeah, we have a lot of guys come in here to the gym that are injured from training CrossFit style. And like I said before, that doesn't mean that all CrossFit boxes are that way. There's some that are really, really good. But I mean, look, this is Run It Straight. This is a rugby league show. Yep. If you want to improve your game, go and see an S&C coach. Even if you were getting a program online or anything like that, you'd get something from an S&C coach who understands sort of the qualities that you're trying to improve. Not so much CrossFit. Cool?
Yeah, cool.
Okay, the next question is anonymous. It's come through anonymously. Just a little quick thing about that. A lot of people don't want to have their names come up on Instagram. So guys, if you want to send a question through, just put, can you post as anonymous, and we won't put your name in, okay? You don't want your mates paying you out for whatever reason, then that's absolutely fine. So this question came to us on Instagram. Again, it's anonymous. If this is your first year in Div 1 and you want to stand out, do you have any tips? Chris?
Be active, talkative, get your hands on the ball as much as possible. Yep. Get to know your teammates, support them. It depends on your positional play, obviously, but supporting them, you can support anyone in any position. And just have a lot of energy on the field and do everything that you possibly can to be around the ball and yeah, that's about it.
So something that I think sort of feeds off that, I would say, is get fit, because what he was saying is if you want to get involved in kind of like everything, you do need to have your fitness at a certain level. So obviously, we talk about doing a lot of strength training and whatnot. This is a one of those occasions when I would say you need to be in the top 2 or 3 guys fitness-wise in your side, because what he said, get involved in everything. Whenever anything is happening, whether it's offensively or defensively, you want to be around it. If you think of defensively, you think about Nathan Hindmarsh, although he's been retired a few years now, or probably James Graham are good examples. Even if, the ball's gone out in the back line and a centre and a winger has run 80 or 90 metres, one of those blokes was always there to stop them from running in and improving the position. They're always around, and that gets noticed. So if you want to get noticed and you want to make an impression, you need to be around that. The same thing, if you're let's say you're an outside back, go and support the forwards. Run with them. Let them know, I'm going to be with you. I'm on your left or I'm on your right, or whatever it happens to be. And the same thing, if you're going to take a run, drag someone with you and let them know, look, I'm going to run. I'm going to try to pop it after contact. Look for my offload on my left side or my right side. Open your mouth and talk. Yeah.
Yeah, but if you're a forward as well, you don't get off the hook with supporting.
No.
Go in twos. When you've got 2 big bodies running at you, you're going to confuse the defensive line. So basically any position, make sure you're supporting.
Just get involved. The more that you're around the ball, things are going to happen, and you might support someone 8-9 times in a game, nothing happens, and then on the 11th time, a guy gets his arm free and he pops the ball, and there's no one else around but you, and then you're there to take that ball, and maybe you run 10-15 metres further, maybe you score a try, maybe you drag another 3 or 4 defenders in, and there's a quick play of the ball, they spread the ball and they score, and that's just because you were getting involved. So just get involved would be the big thing.
Could be the winning try as well.
Yeah. All right, next question comes to us from Joey on Instagram. He's one of the boys in the program. Joe, why is your taste in music rubbish? I don't know, Chris, you want to go first on this one?
At times, I would say they're questionable, but no, I like the list.
Perhaps, Joey, your taste in music is rubbish. Perhaps that's the case. That's number one. Secondly, when I put the music on, sometimes it's stuff from the 70s or the 80s or the 90s or the noughties, which is, 00s. Whenever you guys come in, all you do is you pick stuff from like the last 6 months or 12 months only. So maybe you're the one who has no taste in rubbish. Maybe I'm enjoying all the brilliance of musicians and artists alike over the last 50 years, and all you're into is your garbage mumble rap. How about that? Thank you very much. Okay. Next question is, again, it's another one that's come to us on Instagram. It is anonymous. What taping or strapping procedures should players adopt to prevent injuries? Chris?
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say if you don't have an injury, don't use strapping tape. So what it will do is basically take your stabilizing muscles out of the equation. So if you get used to playing with tape and then you play without the tape, you'll get a higher risk of actually rolling your ankle or hurting your knee or something like that. So I'd say if you don't need it, don't use it.
Yeah, if you don't need it, don't use it. Look, if you're getting medical advice from a physio or something that you need an ankle or a knee or a shoulder or whatever it is strapped, then that's fine, strap it. But, you have natural strapping around a joint. It's called your muscles. Strengthen them. So, strengthen your shoulder, strengthen your rotator cuff in and around the shoulder. It's probably the most commonly injured area, I would say, shoulders. Yeah. Strengthen your knee, strengthen your glutes so that the muscles across the knee, across the hip are really, really strong. We do say it a lot, but it just comes back to it. And the research is really, really super clear on this now. There's so many studies that are coming out almost every year, a lot on US college-age athletes, and it just shows the biggest factor, bigger than anything else, bigger even than stretching and flexibility and mobility, the biggest factor in reducing injury rate is strength training and getting stronger around those joints. So, again, if you've got medical advice, that's fine. Strap your joints that need to be strapped. If it's not injured, then don't. And look, you might be watching first grade and you see so many guys have got so many things strapped, particularly by the end of the year. That's fine. They have performance staff. They've got physios. They've got a lot of injuries that have built up. I remember by the end of JT's career, you'd often see he'd have both shoulders strapped, and there's a knee, and those guys have been through a lot, and they're getting on mid to late 20s, early 30s. They've been playing really, really hard physical rugby league since their early teenage years. So it adds up. That doesn't mean that you at 14 or 15 should go and start taping your wrists and taping your shoulder, because that's what you see guys on TV doing. So just get strong and follow the best medical advice that you can. Yeah?
Yeah.
Cool. So we have a new segment in Run It Straight now, which...
We do?
Didn't I tell you about it? No. Oh, really? I told you about it.
It's all right, I'll just wing it.
All right, well, we've got a new segment. Chris doesn't think that I told him about it. It's called Dogged It. I told you about
you told me about it.
See, I did. Oh, yeah. Joe's very rarely wrong.
We're good.
Okay, so it's called Dogged It. So what Dogged It is when someone has sent in a question and we have attempted to answer it, and then someone has maybe sent us a private DM that they weren't particularly happy with our response, and that maybe we left out this or we could have said that. So this is in fact when essentially we have refused to run it straight and we've dogged it. So in today's Dogged It section, we had someone querying the question, I play in the halves and I'm pretty quick on my feet and a good ball runner, but how do I learn to ball play better? Chris?
Practice. Get your hands on the ball. Be active again. I know that we've said that before.
Some of the things that we said earlier on in the episode. But look,
the practice side of it is getting used to seeing what's unfolding in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the biggest thing. Getting used to reacting to whatever the defense is doing.
Yep. So look, communicate. What does that mean practically? So drag a runner with you. If you're running with the ball, run with the ball out in front in two hands, so the defensive line's like, okay, is he going to pass it? Is he going to run it? Don't tuck it in. That's number one. Run with the ball out in front. Really simple. Drag runners with you. Have someone on your inside hip, someone on your outside hip. Have an option out the back and have a long option. So now all of a sudden, instead of one guy running at the line and trying to use his footwork to beat people, there's 4 or 5. So the defense is in two minds. They can't commit more than 1 or 2 people to you because they've got to mark up on who those runners are on your outside, on your inside. Give yourself options. Look at the defensive line beforehand and decide what it is that you actually want out of this play, or even this set. So you might be deciding, okay, if you're a ball player, you could be a half or a 5'8". You might be trying to direct your team to the 20 or to the 30 or to whatever point it is, but you've got to have in mind, okay, this next play, I'm going to be grabbing the ball. Am I just looking to get him 4 or 5 meters over this way, get a quick play, the ball, get up, and then take advantage of it the next play? Or am I looking to do something now, right now when I get the ball? You've got to be looking at, okay, well, what is my objective? What is my outcome within this set, within this next 1 or 2 tackles? And then right now I'm about to get the ball. What am I trying to achieve here? Does that make sense? When you are trying to engage the defensive line, you need to react to what it is that they're doing. Now, what he was saying before, practice.
Yes.
You've got to practice this. And we said it earlier on in regards to the Div 1 question, is you need to run 2-on-1s, you need to run 3-on-2s, you need to run 4-on-3s. So some of this, it is very hard to practice on your own, but some of this you can do. What else do we want to make sure lines. You need to learn to run an unders line. You need to learn to receive in an unders line. You need to learn to receive in an overs line, because there could be a different thing depending on the situation that you're in. There could be a different line that you need to, so play the balls here. You might need to receive the ball straight. You might need to receive the ball into an unders line, bringing it out. You might need to receive it into an overs and then bring in under. You need to actually practice running these lines. So if you want something to do on your own, set up some cones and set it up so that you sprint, and it could be 2, 3, 4 steps and then you're jamming in. 2, 3, 4 steps, then you're jamming out. You might start off straight and then cut in. And again, remember, we're doing this ball out in front, 2 hands, so you've got options to pass with.
One of the things, actually, Joe, with ball players that I do see a lot, it happens a lot, they tend to run sideways. So you need to straighten up the play, depending on what kind of play you're running, but you do have to straighten up before you execute the play. So if there's a set play that you're running, if everyone just runs the same way, this defense will just slide, and then nothing will happen.
Yeah, and this is often inexperienced ball players, people that are good athletes that might be playing in the halves that are quick, zippy on their feet. That's often what happens, and that's what I'm talking about, playing those lines. So playing an unders line, jamming it up and straightening it up so the defense has to stop and they can't keep sliding, and oftentimes that can create, it might be a gap off your outside hip, or it just might, it now means that the outside defense does need to react. I think we've even got some videos up on our Instagram. If you go and have a look at with some of our field sessions, a few of the boys actually running unders lines really well. And if you do them, you end up creating a gap either somewhere along the line or on the outside. Anything else you want to add to that?
Communication with your players, so getting them in the right position.
Yeah.
You need to be loud.
Authority.
If that means yelling at your tired forwards that are running the block play, that are not moving fast enough, if that means getting extra players over to your side to run the actual play that you're setting up, it's very important. Just yell just yell as loud as you can and get everyone in position before the play starts.
Yeah, if you're shy outside of the field, that's fine, but you've got to find your voice when you're on the field. You have to be loud. You have to, and look, it doesn't matter that the guy's twice as strong and 3 times as big as what you are. You need to tell him, you get over there, you get over here, I need you here, you get outside me, and then you tell him to shut up and just do what you tell him to. That's what clubs are looking for from a hooker or a half or a 5'8", is someone who can take control of that situation and get the pieces moving. Perfect. All right, that's all we have for today's episode, guys. If you do have a question, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. If you don't want your name, send a DM and put anonymous on it. What? Oh yeah, please subscribe to our channel as well. Cheers.